Welcome back for another episode of Headgears to Handshakes. I'm here with Kevin Lutz. Did I say that name? Lutz. I knew I was going to blow that. Just like any other episode, we're going to start with a handshake at the end. I'm going to rank it, and we'll just talk a little bit about wrestling.
Sounds good.
Ooh, and you did the hand turn. I try to teach my son that, so that's good. So yeah, tell me a little about when you got into wrestling, where it took you, just sort of your overall experience with the sport.
Yeah, wrestling's been a huge part of my life. I think I started wrestling when I was about 4 years old. Grew up in southern New Jersey. What I consider to be a wrestling town. Had a head coach that coached me in high school that. I think he was in his 30th season, something like that. Had about 400 wins in his career. So wrestling was a big part of my life. In my town, pretty much all the athletes wrestled. My brothers wrestled, and I followed that path. And I had a pretty successful high school career. Enlisted in the Marine Corps when I was a senior, and was very fortunate during my time in the military to wrestle for the Marine Corps wrestling team for a few years, and we can get into that a little bit further. But just wrestling's been a huge component to my life professionally. Just retired from law enforcement, was able to bring a lot of those skills to teach the cops, and just very grateful. And now living in Princeton, being involved with the Princeton wrestling team, it's been amazing. Well,
being a Marine, that's not easy, and wrestling's not easy. How does wrestling prepare you for when you joined the Marines?
I think, I would consider myself like a late bloomer. Had a pretty good career leading up to my senior year. Was able to win a regional championship as a senior, won a few matches at states, but never placed. I think the transition to going to boot camp, accomplishing what I had set out to do probably 2 or 3 years prior, really gave me the confidence that I could go on and continue to wrestle at some point. I was stationed in Hawaii after I went to boot camp, went to my school, and took probably about 2 years off of the sport. Was fortunate enough to get transferred to Quantico, where the wrestling team was based, and I had a few months leading up to the camp the year that I tried out to kind of understand what it was all about. I didn't even know they had a team when I enlisted. So at that point, they did not have regional training centers, so a lot of the Olympic level wrestlers, the guys were looking to get paid and train, were in the military at that time. They still are today, but with the RTCs, I think that's cut back a little bit. I had no delusions of being an Olympian or a national champion. My goal was to be good enough to wrestle with these guys in the room, and I was able to accomplish that, and it really springboarded me into other things in my life after I got out, and gave me the confidence to do that.
And you said you were you a police officer?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So worked in Camden, New Jersey. For those that are unfamiliar with Camden, predominantly one of the most dangerous cities in the country. Amazing place to work. I could go on for a while about the changes that we've gone through over the years, but the Camden City Police Department in 2013 transitioned to a county police department, and at that time we made some pretty high-profile changes to training, how cops were trained, as far as self-defense, de-escalation, and other things. My chief had a big platform at that point, and through my background in wrestling and the reputation that I had within law enforcement, it really gave me the opportunity to teach others and kind of shape the way policing was changing at that time, and really was amazing. So was in Camden for about 20 years, was the chief at Rutgers Camden for about a year and a half, and then I ended up my last assignment, which is quite possibly the most uncommon place that a street cop from Camden would end up. I was overseeing all professional standards for the state. So
that's incredible. Wrestling really set you up
and
to,
it really
to,
set
to
me
climb
up to do
like
that.
Yeah.
It did. Not only the confidence in teaching others, but with some wrestling success and background, went on to do jiu-jitsu, actually had more success doing jiu-jitsu and no-gi grappling than I did wrestling. All of that kind of propelled me to where I ended up.
I think it's interesting, and again, this might not be you behind the scenes doing this, but you're teaching adults how to wrestle from scratch, right? That's amazing, and I know that Princeton, you're wearing Princeton Wrestling Club. Don't they have like an adult wrestling class somewhere around in this area?
They do. So the Princeton Wrestling Club, I'll stand by the statement. I run the youth program that's directly associated with Joe Dubuque and the college program, as well as the RTC. It all kind of falls under the same umbrella. Extremely fortunate. I know Reese runs a couple of classes for adults. My son's 12 years old, and the exposure that he's had to watching how a Division I program is run, having the college coaches and athletes, pop in and teach a class. We usually, we're waiting outside the door. College kids are walking out. Our kids are walking in. It's amazing. And, high quality individuals. I think you interviewed Doc McLaughlin earlier today. Doc is world-renowned brain surgeon, still in teaching the kids every night. Amazing.
That is amazing, and I think it's unique, right? Just even the athletes alone, these are high character people. It's no walk in the park to be a Princeton wrestler. Correct. And so what does it mean to those kids to just be able to rub shoulders with those guys, be on the same mat, see those guys train, and see them handling school and training? I mean, it's not only a great wrestling program, they're phenomenal. I mean, they're putting title contenders out there, national champ guys. They had a national champ not long ago. And these are people that are going to be leading in their professions, right?
Yes.
So what does that mean to those kids?
I think, for me personally, I've been involved now for 8 or 9 years. So, having come from a wrestling background, I was blown away from day one. We cater to everybody. We have kids that are, winning state titles, and we have kids who've never wrestled before. And I think that's what makes our club unique. Joe says it all the time. We'll produce those state champs and kids that are looking to wrestle in college, but we're also going to, bring the kid in that's never wrestled before. So I think the longer they stay with the program and the longer they're around and they see the high quality people that, we have teaching these kids, the more they appreciate it.
Where do you think the biggest challenge has been teaching wrestling? Was it with the adults or these young kids?
I really, I love coaching. I've taken more of an administrative role. I kind of organize everything and, make sure all the information's going out and everybody's where they need to be. It's Coach Alderman, who I referenced earlier. He was All-American in the mid-'90s. Amazing teacher. Joe Pollard's kid, assistant coach at Rutgers, is now involved in the program. He's out on the mat just about every night. There's no need for me to, step on their toes when they're teaching the kids. I just kind of reinforce whatever they're teaching that given night. So,
how are you seeing these kids change? When you first get them as part of this club, this new one, to 3 years later.
You see tremendous growth. We were just talking last night. We're about a month into the season. The fact that we do cater to all levels, sometimes a really, talented kids can get a little frustrated if some of the other kids aren't figuring stuff out quick enough, but the growth that we've already seen just this season, our numbers are, really high. It's been amazing. And, more so, and what I'm most proud of is those kids who might not be the most talented and have never wrestled before. They're going to get in that room. It can be a little intimidating walking into Jadwin, watching these, world-class Division I athletes walking out as they're walking in, and just getting those kids to commit to the sport at whatever level they see themselves at in the years to come.
How do you feel like that's helped their character? And are you getting kids from the wrong side of the tracks, the right side,
both.
A mix of it?
Yeah, we get both. Princeton doesn't have a rec program, so again, I'm speaking from a dad's point of view with my kid coming up through the program. This was his rec program, and that's kind of how it was founded. And it's kind of grown into this just amazing experience where you have access to these athletes who, it's not a chore for them. Anthony Ashnault is one of the best teachers I've ever seen with the kids, and he's not, it's not a chore for him. He's in there, he's having a good time, he's sitting with my son after practice for 10 minutes, just, breaking down what they went over. It's special.
So what would, if you had a magic wand, what's one thing you'd want to give the program that it doesn't have currently?
Honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. I'll stand it up against any other program anywhere. It's special. I can't say it enough, and I'm proud to be a part of it. It's a lot of work these are all volunteers. It's a nonprofit, and that's also what makes it special. There's no money to be made in this. All the money goes back to the athletes and spent on uniforms and things like that. We're really in it just to grow the sport. And Chris Ayers before him, it's about growing the Princeton ecosystem. And Princeton is becoming a wrestling town. And this area, New Jersey's wrestling's obviously huge. Mercer County historically has not been. So it's coming along.
And I think everybody from the outside looking at it can see that Princeton wrestling has just blown up, and even Coach Joe Dubuque, I feel like he's just carrying that torch, and he's looking to even take it even further.
Absolutely.
And it's been neat because we don't always see what's going on behind the scenes, but you can see the growth from far away, right?
Yeah.
You can see that the success, you can see the excitement, you can see the buy-in. And I think when you came in here, you really made a point of saying that the club is directly associated with the university. When did that shift happen, and why do you think that was so important in the strategic way that Joe and Coach Ayers and if it happened before then, that they wanted to make that a big piece of the puzzle?
I mean, I think they saw it as a value add where you're bringing local people in the community, you're introducing them to a sport that they probably knew nothing about. And we're getting people to come to matches, and again, it's just growing that ecosystem and making these kids the best version of themselves.
Do you know when it started? Do you know when it officially?
30 years ago.
Oh, so it's been a working.
It was paused, and then I forget what that stands for, and then it shifted over to PWC.
Gotcha.
So,
okay, so this is something that was kind of in the works. It maybe slowed down a little bit, and then. Now there's a big push towards
I don't know when it shifted to PWC. It's probably about 20 years ago.
Got it.
But it's been in place for a while. And, again, it's all volunteer fathers and, others that have come in periodically leading up to our current head coach. Amazing.
Nice. Yeah. Let's go back to when you were a police officer. When are some times you had to use some wrestling to maybe...
So... Obviously, Camden was a very challenged place, specifically when I started. I started in a small suburb, got out of the Marines, small suburban town, and then went over to Camden. Eye-opening, a lot going on, street-level drug dealing, stuff like that. So as a young street cop that was interested in going out and doing the work, there were a lot of foot chases, a lot of things like that. Wrestling, and then ultimately getting into jiu-jitsu and other things and doing that at a high level definitely put me in a position where I was making the officers safe, and predominantly what led to the changes in policing in general is the approach to de-escalating situations, but being able to defend yourself and protect others in a way that the public would accept it more than they historically had in the past. I don't know if I could talk about this topic for a long time.
Yeah.
Body-worn cameras, accountability measures, all of that changed the way that we had to do our business. So
okay, yeah, you got to be careful, right?
You got to be careful. You have to be, force is a last resort. It's not something that you're.
And even force, when you're using it, you don't want to hurt them.
You don't want to hurt someone.
That takes understanding how to.
Yes.
If you understand wrestling, you understand. Well, this is going to hurt. I can still hold him down and not hurt him if I do this.
Yes.
Right.
So
that's an important part of it.
The core of wrestling and jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, there's a place for striking, but relatively ineffective when you're actually trying to subdue somebody that's trying to get away from you. We had to kind of change how we were teaching the recruits. There were a lot more limitations less limitations in the beginning as body-worn cameras were introduced, and people were seeing force and other things. There were, there's incidents that take place, unfortunately, across the country that put a black eye on law enforcement, and we just had to professionalize how we were handling our business. And when you're teaching recruits specifically, if I have a class of 100 recruits, you may have 10 wrestlers in that group that are going to really understand what you're teaching. But you have to teach from the basic level, and you have to teach everyone kind of the same way. So you'll have people who weren't athletes, who never really did much prior to joining the academy. So not only are you getting them in shape, you have to teach them the very basics. And what I would, a line I always used when I was teaching was, I'm not going to make you a black belt by the time you leave here, but I will be able to teach you how to put your hands on somebody when it's necessary, get them on the ground, hold them there, wait for your backup, the very basics. And, some would go and advance beyond that, but chokes and restrictions around the neck, all that stuff is now severely limited, considered deadly force. So just had to change the approach on how we were doing that. But making the cop safe and making the public safe, it's a difficult balance.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Tough, real tough.
Let me ask you this, because I'm gonna be kicking myself in the if I don't.
Yeah.
I have a wrestler named Dominic DeFalco, and he wants to be a police officer.
Yeah.
How does he do it? What would you be telling a kid that's a wrestler? He's graduated, maybe he's got his undergrad degree, and he says, I want to be a police officer. What does he do?
Unfortunately, it was much more difficult to become a cop when I was getting out. I found a job in my hometown pretty easily. Those jobs now, if you want to do it, they're much more available.
Okay.
I'd say depending on where he lives, decide on the type of work that he wants to do. State police organizations are typically bigger. I left from a small department to go to a bigger department for the ability to grow. Was able to reach the rank of captain and then make chief when I went over to the university. You really have to figure out what you want to do. If I had to do it all over again, being a Princeton cop doesn't sound half bad.
No,
so,
but I feel like everybody's fighting over being a Princeton cop. Do you think more people are drawn to
it's
a place that's probably
It's going to be
safer?
tough. It's much tougher now, I think, to recruit into the cities, your Philadelphias, Camden. They're doing pretty well now with recruitment. We always did historically in the past, but doing that type of work is going to come with risk. Not only risk to yourself, but there were mistakes that I could make early in my career that you would learn from and grow from that you can't make now. And the expectations that a 20, 21, 22-year-old kid is the world's problem solver without having the experience of having gone through these, there were nights where I was working in Camden in a summer night in 2008 where you're going to 20, 25 calls. There's shooting calls going out that we don't even have enough police officers to get to the scene. That's a whole nother level compared to working perhaps in a suburban town. So I think you just have to figure out what type of work you want to do. There's always the FBI, things like that if you have a college degree. So
if there's somebody that has the degree and they're like, I don't know if I want to do it, but I'm considering it, what's something you'd say, hey, ask yourself this, and this is how if you answer this way, this is probably right for you. If you answer this way, it's probably not.
What type of work do you want to do? I wanted to work, the inner city work for me was interesting. I knew there'd be room for advancement, and I'd have these amazing experiences, meet great people, be on the SWAT team. That's what I wanted to do. That's not for everybody. It all worked out for me. I had good mentors. Give speeches regularly when I was still active, where speaking to a recruit class at a graduation, find a mentor early within the department, find the people who are doing it the right way, stay away from the negative people, and the opportunities now in law enforcement, if you do it the right way, they're endless. And I'm 45 years old and I'm retired, so I'm going back to work. But
that's a lot like any business. Law enforcement, whether you're running a company, whether you're in sales, find somebody that's doing really good at it, that has a positive attitude, and create a relationship with them.
That's it.
Right? And if people aren't doing that, then don't spend time on it. It's just amazing to see almost any path is the same way.
You're going to have every police department. You're going to have your high performers, your low performers, and everyone in the middle. And if you can associate yourself with the people who have the respect and have done it the right way, that's what I did, and it paid dividends.
If you could pick your perfect team to be around you, who would you pick? What kind of attributes would they have? Would they be wrestlers? Would they be tough? Would you be like, what are you looking for?
So here's my takeaway from all the people that I've met through the Princeton program, and that's going back to Ayers, Sean Gray, to the current guys with Brewer and Wolf joined us now. Amazing people, right? Like, these guys are the most accomplished in the sport. They're not arrogant. You want to be confident without being cocky. You let your work and your actions speak more than what you're saying about yourself or championing for yourself. Ashnault in particular has really stood out to me as someone who, he's the best to ever do it in our state, and he rides around town on a Vespa. Saw me and Jake, my son, walking around a month or so ago, and pulls over, spends 10 minutes just chatting with us. That's what I want my son to emulate, and I think that's the best that the sport has to offer. And I'll take a wrestler, any day in law enforcement. So
I love that.
Yeah,
let's go to your son, because I have a son. He's a ninth grader, and it's frustrating because, one, I know what kind of dad and coach I am, and so I think I've scared him away from wrestling. I actually asked him, I go, hey, you can either try out wrestling or you can get a job, and he's like, I'll get a job.
How old is he?
He's a ninth grader.
Ninth.
So when we were in North Carolina, there wasn't a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
We started a club, it died. It was just a lot. So we never forced him in. He was the kind of kid that if we had a wrestling camp, he'd come to the camp, and he'd play as long as his friend's there. And then if his friend wasn't going to go to the camp that year, he didn't want. That's just like what he wanted out of it.
Yeah.
How have you balanced being a dad and also being a part of the club? And did you have moments where he didn't want to do it, or has he always wanted to do it? How's that experience been?
My son's he's a very driven kid. Loves wrestling. Real good baseball player. It's been a journey already. He's really doing well. His progression's been great. Really into it. I haven't had that trouble with him, and I think to watch the difference between me coming up. I considered myself in a wrestling town, wrestled for the rec program, but we never really left beyond the 1 hour radius. The talented kids now and the youth wrestling in general, it's just man, the kids are so much better. And I mean, I again consider myself a pretty good high school wrestler. Jake's 12 and probably wrestled more than I wrestled my whole life already. So balancing burnout, doing too much, I think it's really important that they play other sports.
Is that why you have him doing baseball, or is that just he wanted to do it? He's
equally talented, loves them both.
But you just like that side of it. You think that's a
great
good
balance.
mix.
We keep wrestling in the off season, 1 or 2 days a week, tournaments once a month. But then when it's baseball season, it's baseball season. And one of the things as he's getting older now, wrestling in a K-8 tournament, you have holdbacks and kids who are being held back.
Yeah.
To go to high school for sports and an advantage. And that's something that I never considered, but it's are you putting your child at a disadvantage not doing it?
Yeah.
If I've always kind of believed if they're good enough, they're gonna figure it out. That it is what it is. But the sport has changed, and balancing. You see some of the really talented kids. You can see the burnout. You can see. I saw a really bad display of coaching and parenting this past weekend that it breaks my heart, and I would never do that to my child, but that's a part of the sport. And
what they do, yelling? Or
yelling, verbally abusing his kid for a solid, while he's coaching, verbally abusing his kid for 30 to 40 minutes, threw his headgear at him.
Well, let me ask you this. This is okay. I know the picture, yeah.
It's horrible.
What would you do if you took the club kids and you saw a parent doing that? How would you handle that situation?
Well, in this particular, I didn't intervene with this.
Yeah.
You don't know where that's going to go either.
Yeah.
That would never happen in our club, nor would Joe or anybody associated with the program allow that to happen.
Yeah.
It's not that important. There's plenty of wrestling ahead. It'll be all right.
Yeah. So maybe a conversation. I mean, but it probably wouldn't happen.
Obviously, if it ever happened with someone associated with us, we'd we'd step in. And that particular, I wasn't stepping in on that.
No, of course
one,
not.
That one would have been.
I've seen the videos of when like somebody gets mad and it's a rarity. You don't see it that often.
You don't see it that much, but it's an unfortunate reality that in some cases the parents are living through their kids, and
just too much.
And it's a lot. So I'm proud to say that we.
Haven't ran into that.
We don't run into that, but unfortunately, it's part of any sport, really. I mean,
anything.
Baseball might be worse.
Are you going to hold your kid back?
I do not plan to.
No. That might not change. So I don't know if you saw the Daniel Cormier podcast. Did you see that one? So basically, he was talking about how he was having his guys do it, and he was explaining why wouldn't I do it? This kid's now going to be the number one kid in the country when he graduates. He's going to have money or offers or whatever. That's one.
How do you know? How do you know that though? You don't know that.
How do I?
No,
I don't know that. No.
They could show. My kid is at a point where he's still got physical growth ahead of him as well. I get it. I guess it is an advantage. I mean, if you're in high school for one more year and you have one more year to wrestle, if I take myself and add 1 year to my senior year of high school, that's a pretty successful senior year. I'm not sure it's necessary, but I'll have to cross that bridge when I get there.
Yeah. Does your son know what he wants to do for school? Is he going to try to go to
Princeton? He's still
young.
No, I mean, he's young. I think Joe often talks about having, the ultimate goal would be a kid coming up through the club, going to Princeton High School, going to Princeton University and winning a national title. And then going to the RTC and chasing a dream of being an Olympian. Would that be my ultimate goal for my kid? Sure, it would be. I don't know if that's realistic. We'll see. Time will tell. He's very interested in the military academies, but he's still very young. So
maybe be a Marine like you?
Yeah. I'd want him to be an officer, though, not enlisted. So that's what I'd encourage him to do.
Yeah. We had Miss Savino in here, and she was explaining how she had 2 kids, and one of them was like, hey, I'm gonna make all these sacrifices and not do any sports, and that way I can win a state title or whatever that wrestling goal was. And soccer season came around, and the kid was just miserable. And so her and Joe went to him and said, well, you're miserable. Like, you can do it. Like, will that hurt? Like, will not going to all these extra summer practice make this a little harder? Like, maybe, right? But it's not going to make it impossible. And then he chose to do it, right? And then the other kid made these sacrifices, maybe. But it's like, I just thought it was, I love that she just had the conversation, like the reality, like maybe, like, and then let him pick. Like, would she have loved him to maybe not do it? Maybe. But she just explained. I just thought that was a great way to handle it.
It's important to let, I am blessed that he's very driven, loves the sport. I want to keep it that way. So I don't want to put any added pressure than he already puts on himself. And I think most reasonable parents would think the same way, right? I want what's best for him. I'll have to, make those decisions as time goes along. But there certainly is an advantage to being in high school longer. But we'll see how it all plays out.
Being a parent's fun, isn't it?
Oh, it's crazy. Things you never even thought about. You just went to school and graduated when you graduated. So, what's
some advice you'd give somebody that is maybe just getting into wrestling with their son and they're joining a club? Just something that maybe you wish you knew when you first started. That
enjoy
you
the ride. Enjoy. It doesn't matter the beauty of wrestling. And we just went to a middle school match yesterday. Ran the gamut of talent from kids who've never wrestled to talented kids. The kid who wins his first match and that may be his only win all year. That's what you're going to remember. And the takeaways from the sport, specifically for me at an early age, I wasn't very good when I was younger. Just remember the wins and remember how that made you feel, and you're out there, you're just building character. And I think it's unrealistic to think that every talented kid's going to go wrestle in college. Limited spots. Just take out of the sport what you can, and it's going to build character.
Yeah. So. Let me tell you this, just perception of outside looking in. I've always thought of Princeton wrestling just being about super positivity, and we talked about 2 of the wrestlers that are around it, and they're always making music and fun and
Reese with the kids.
Reese.
So having a blast when he's out there. Yeah, it's amazing. And that's
so,
what they see, and that's a guy who did it at the highest level.
Yeah.
So.
And and all of them, just anything from the outside looking, a lot of the videos that they put out, it always just seems like they're having fun, they're working hard, they expect to win. I've never seen them go into a duel and say, hey, we have Rutgers, we're going to roll over today. It's like, if Princeton's in a duel, they're going to win it.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like they wrestle that way, but it's fun. And so I've always wondered.
And they're building out their, that's the beauty of the Ivies. There's not the NIL, and it really doesn't exist. They're selling Princeton University. And
the education, the opportunities, and
what it's going to provide for them later. And I think you see that in, you're going to see those same faces for 4 straight years, right? There's no red shirt year. You're seeing them for 4 years, and they're developing their own.
That's why I want to ask you. So that's been my perception of Princeton wrestling. And then Cody Brewer always came off to me like he was really serious. There was a quote out there that I saw of Brewer, and maybe he said it. You could ask him for me or show him this. And it was something like, I just, I had to win a national title because my coach believed I could, and I couldn't let him down. Something like that, where you could tell he's like, my coach believed that I had to do it, right?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, how has somebody like him changed? Maybe he wasn't serious. Maybe there's just a certain perception of him. But I'm just wondering how he's been fitting in with Princeton.
Great, he's helped out a handful of times with the youth. Just like Anthony and the rest, he'll sit down, have a conversation with the kids, and I think that's the biggest difference. With our kids coming up, they'll sit and just have those conversations with them, talk through life, not necessarily wrestling. And it's amazing, and Brewers fit right in. So,
cool.
And obviously Joe put together quite a staff.
Yeah, he does well. He knows what he's doing.
3 national champions and Wolf coming in as well. He's got young kids, so I would expect him, as they come up, I'm sure he'll be just as involved as the rest. So.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time. Before I rank your handshake, is there any last messages you want to give the wrestling world or the community out there?
Princeton is a wrestling town.
Hey, I believe that. Well, the handshake ranking is a solid 9.
9.
Solid 9.
I like it.
So we'll take it.
I like it.
So
all right, man.
appreciate
Thanks.
you joining us.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. That was pretty good.